Hey guys, today we're looking at WP-CLI, the command line interface for WordPress. If you manage sites, build plugins, or automate anything in WordPress, WP-CLI is your power tool. WP-CLI lets you control WordPress from the terminal. You can install core, manage plugins, themes, create users, run database operations, and a whole lot more without clicking around in the admin. And as a developer, there are three reasons why I love WP-CLI. One, speed and repeatability. One command beats 10 clicks. Automation, it's perfect for scripts and cron jobs. And the headless access. When WP admin is slow or blocked, CLI still works. Here on my screen are some WP-CLI commands provided by WordPress. These are the native commands. There are other commands that you can also get from custom plugins, third-party plugins, etc. So for now, let's just get into what we have with core. So one of my favorites is actually WP cache. If you're using something like Redis object caching, the WP cache is great for doing a quick flush. So to do that, if you go to WP cache, scroll down, you'll find WP cache flush. With just this command alone, you can actually flush your entire object cache from your site. Now, if we go back, one of the other things that I also like is WP search replace. This is pretty awesome when you're like migrating a site from your local domain to a new domain, the live. So what I like to do is I like to use this just like this. There's a great example here where you do WP search replace, you put in your local domain, and then you add your live domain. Then you have other flags that you can add to the end of it. Now I'm going to leave this resource linked to the video, but for now I'd like to really get into how to write our very own WP CLI commands. I'm using local for my WordPress installation. So for me, accessing the WP CLI is as simple as going to my site shell. And here I can actually do something like WP core version. That's going to tell me what version I have. But what I want to do is I actually want to go to, let's see, cd WP content plugins. I want to go to my plugins folder, and as you can see, I only have just one file in there, the index.php for this new site. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the WP plugin. Nope, wrong about that. The scaffold, yes, WP scaffold command. And I'm actually going to create a plugin for this tutorial. So to do that, I'm going to use WP scaffold plugin, and I'm going to give it a slug for the file name. So let's go with dev tutorial CLI. Okay. Now that that's created, let's take a look at what we have, and you can see here that it created that folder. So let's head over to VS Code. And here in VS Code, you can see that that plugin was created. So let's just go to the admin and actually activate that plugin. Perfect. So now we have a plugin scaffolded that we can work from. Now to actually create a CLI command, it's as simple as dropping in the code. So let's see over here. It speaks to how you can actually create a command. This is the WP CLI commands cookbook. It's pretty much like the Bible for CLI commands. So the way that it has this written, I'm going to do it a little different. First, I'm going to check if WP CLI is defined. So let's do that. So we're going to say if defined WP CLI. Yeah, perfect. Now inside here, let's write a CLI command. To do that, we need to add a command, and the callback. So let's do that. Let's do a hello world. So it says WP-CLI add add command, and we're going to call it dev tutorial, and we're going to give it a callback. That looks cool. Let's give it the function now. Now inside here we can use the WP-CLI success. That's going to return a message on the screen for us. So let's do success. Perfect, just double checking. So now that that's done, I should be able to go back to my command line, and I'm going to type WP dev tutorial, and it gave us a success. And just like that, we're able to now create a very basic CLI command. Now in the next step, we're going to create a more advanced one, something more useful to us as developers. Okay, as promised, we're going to now create a more advanced WP-CLI command, something that a developer would actually use. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create bulk users using the CLI command. That way, you don't have to create users manually through the admin. You won't have to use a plugin, and you have more control over the users that you're creating. Now, I use Copilot. So I'm going to use Copilot to basically write this command based on the instructions that I'm going to give. Then I'm going to go through and explain and adopt the plugin as needed. So let's start by creating a class. So let's get rid of this, and we're just going to create a class called dev tutorial bulk user. Okay, now here I'm actually going to give Copilot the instructions that that we'd like for this. So I'm going to tell it to create 2 CLI methods, one for user creation and one for dummy user delete. Now, what I foresee for this is that when our users are created, we need some sort of flag to know that they are a part of our dummy users. So this way, when we delete users, it's not going to delete all of our existing users or like our admin account or anything like that. So let's give that prompt an update for the created users. Add a flag to the user meta so we can know which users are dummy users so we can delete them later using the delete command. All right, let's go ahead and add that prompt. Actually, let's also give the dummy users an email ending in let's go with at example.com. Also give them random first and last names like John Doe, John Philip, Jane, etc. All right, let's see what we get. All right, now that Copilot is complete, let's take a quick look. There's a mismatch here. Let's see. Let's get some alignment going. So here's our class. Okay. Now let's see if this broke our site or not. Okay, the site is still live, so let's continue. So basically, it has created this method, create dummy users, and what it's doing here is it's basically having a list of first names and a list of last names that it can create. It also set us up with a an argument that we can pass. So basically, we'll be able to give it a number. So here you can see it's going to loop through the number that's being passed through the WP-CLI command. And so we can now create up to 5, or we can create more depending on the number that we give, but by default it's going to be 1. So here you can see that it's basically doing array rand, which is going to basically pluck a random index from the array to give us our first name. The same thing for last name. Now it's creating the username and then giving it a hash of 4 characters. That's pretty cool. For the username, it's taking that username and basically using that for the email, so that makes it unique for us. And then it's generating a password. Okay, and here we can see it's creating the user, and if there's any issues with creating this user, it actually throws a warning, so that's pretty good. Kudos to Copilot for that. And this is the flag that we asked for, is dummy user. So this flag is what we're going to use to actually determine if the user was created using the CLI command, and that way we're going to target that to actually delete the user later. And here we have WP-CLI success, which is basically the prompt that is added at the end of the command to basically say that the user was created. So that's pretty cool. And the other method, the deleting dummy users. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to look for all users that have the meta key that was created above here and check to see if it has a value of 1. And when found, the first check is to see if there aren't any. If there aren't any, then it's going to just return a success for the command that no dummy users were found. Else, it's going to loop through each of those users and it's going to delete them. It's going to log which users were deleted, and at the end of it, basically give a count of how many were actually deleted. Now, in our previous tutorial, we actually had a very simple CLI command, but in this case, since this is a class, I can show you how this works. So basically, the command that we're going to call is going to be called dev tutorial, and what it's going to then do is call the method inside of dev tutorial and any arguments at the end of it. So let's actually give this a shot. So we're going to take WP dev tutorial create dummy users. We're going to head to our terminal here. Let's clear it up so we can get a better view. And just like that, it has suggested that it created 5 new users for us. And just as it said, it's taking the first name, the last name, and pretty much just a 4-character generated sort of hash for us, and adding example.com at the end. So let's take a look. So if we head over to users, we can see the users that were created just now, which is perfect. Now, if we were to take a look at our database, we're going to head over to users. Here we can see all the users, but let's take a look at our user meta. And here you can see that we do have users that do use the dummy user with the flag of 1. Perfect. So Let's say that we've actually completed our development that we were doing using these dummy users, which means now we can go ahead and remove these users. So let's do that. We are going to head back to the CLI code, and we're just going to run WP dev tutorial delete dummy users. And as before, it's going to loop through all of our users that have the is dummy user flag set, and it's going to try to delete those, and then it's going to keep a count at the end of the script. So let's do that. Let's see how it works. Let's clear this. And so said, so done. Deleted dummy user ID 65432. And as you can see, it did not delete my admin account because I know that is using ID 1. So it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do. So let's take a quick look at our database. We're going to head back to users. And here we go. We just have one. And looking at the admin as well, we just have one. So this is just a quick tutorial on how to use WP-CLI commands and actually how to create a basic one and a little more advanced one. But of course, I'm using Copilot, so that helped a lot. But the same principle applies here. So in another tutorial, I'm going to work on creating an even more advanced WP-CLI command with more features, more methods, and more cool things. So I'll see you in the next one.